We have listened for 5 weeks in a row to the chapter 6 of John's Gospel. If you have good memory and you go back 5 weeks, the chapter opened with a multiplication of the loaves. And then for 3 weeks, Jesus was unpacking the miracle and speaking about the bread of life and how, in the final analysis, He is the bread of life. And today, this 5th week, we close with today's reading, chapter 6. We come to a place where the disciples are called to make a decision. So 2 words stand out for me from today's gospel, and the words are confrontation and decision. So let us analyze today's gospel and break it down for our own lives. The first thing I want to point out is the speech that Jesus pronounces in Capernaum is a speech hard to digest. He speaks to the Jews in terms that are very hard for them to assimilate. He tells them, "You have to eat my flesh and drink my blood." And this is really hard for the Jews to take because they were very careful about what they ate and what they drank. And they never had blood. So what happens today, a lot of people say, "This is too much. I cannot withstand this language. I'm leaving." Does Jesus change his discourse to avoid people leaving him? Does Jesus really care about popularity, or does he care about truth? Is he looking for followers? Is he interested in the amount of people that follow him? Or is he interested in being faithful to what his Father has given him? And the answer, we all know it. And the answer is, Jesus cares about being faithful to the truth, and he doesn't care about having a lot of popularity. And this is very relevant to the church. Because the Catholic Church has to teach things that for today's culture are highly unpopular. Today the church has to say things that people don't want to listen to. The whole culture has a great difficulty assimilating what the church has to proclaim. And many times I've heard people say, maybe the church should change its position on certain things because a lot of people are leaving the church because the church is not changing. I remember speaking with my mother and my mom saying, "You know what, I think the church should reconsider celibacy, because if celibacy wasn't required for priests, then you would have more priests coming in." And you know what's the truth behind this attractive idea? That all of the churches, Protestant churches, Anglican churches, that sought popularity over truth, had for a small while popularity, and then people left those churches. Did you know, for example, that in the Anglican Church, they open up the priesthood for men to be married, for married men, for women, for homosexuals, and this all seemed so popular initially. But in the long run, people started leaving the Anglican Church. Why? Because we need a church that is faithful to the truth and not a church that is wanting popularity or more followers. That doesn't mean that the church is meant to bring forward the truth in a way that's unappealing. But it's just a reminder today, brothers and sisters, that Catholicism is not about the numbers. It's not about the popularity. It's about being faithful to the truth in the same way that Jesus did not water down his discourse today in spite of the reactions of people. So my encouragement for you and for myself is, let us be faithful to the truth and not people that pursue popularity. Second idea or second comment. Today it is also, from the first reading and from the gospel, a time for confrontation and decision. In the first reading, we have heard that Joshua confronts the people of Israel in Shechem. And he asks them, who are you going to serve? Are you going to serve the old gods of the pagans, or are you going to serve the only God? In the gospel, Jesus confronts the disciples. He says, are you also going to leave me? So today is a day of confrontation. And what do I have to say about confrontation? We all have been at some point of our lives confronted. Maybe our parents confronted us. Maybe our spouses confronted us at some point. Someone confronted us. And confrontation can be good, because confrontation can move us from a place of being lukewarm and of being comfortable to a place of radicality and heroism. And speaking about confrontation, I want to share with you a beautiful story that I heard a couple of weeks ago. A seminarian back in a country called Uruguay in South America was going through a rough moment. His dad had Alzheimer or dementia. So he came back to visit his family, and he was thinking about maybe leaving seminary because maybe it was not the right time to be a priest because his dad was, sick. So he came back to his house. And as soon as he came back, his father, who had dementia, looked at him and said, what are you doing here? And his father, with dementia, he told him, I did not breed a coward for a son. I said, if you already gave your yes to the Lord, there is no going back. So the seminarian was kind of like, wow, I wasn't expecting that from my demented father. So he went to look for his mom, because his mom initially had not supported him when he decided to go to seminary. So he thought maybe my mom would be more understanding. So he went to his mom. And his mom, as soon as she saw him, she said, don't tell me that you're thinking about leaving seminary. And he said, but Mom, I'm worried about you and what you're going to eat, because now that my dad is sick, who is going to provide for the family? And his mom said, I'd rather die hungry than to take away a priest from this country. Why am I sharing with you this story? Because it shows us that confrontation can move us to a place of decision. So now I want to ask you this question. Are you meant to confront someone to help them move to a decision? Or are you meant to confront yourself right now in this coming week, so do you move to take a decision in the same way that Jesus confronts the disciples? Last point that I want to share with you, and with this I finish. Today the gospel says that many left Jesus. And it seems like only a small group decided to remain with him after this moment of decision. This passage of John 6 looks like an inflection point. So a small group decided to stay with him. So I've always wondered, why do some people stay with the Lord and why do some people do not persevere? This makes me think about when I came to the faith. I went to a retreat 19 years ago with 50 of my friends, and probably only 3 of us still are practicing Catholics, although everybody left that retreat so motivated. So I asked myself this question: why is it always a small number that perseveres and follows the Lord? Why? And to find the answer, I went back on chapter 6. And there's a hint, because I think this open-ended question has a lot of ways to answer it, but there's a hint at the beginning of the chapter. And right after Jesus multiplies the bread, when they come back to listen to his great speech, he tells them, "You are here not because of what I have to tell you, but because you ate the bread and you want more bread." So what does this mean? You know who are the people that don't persevere? Those who look for the Lord for the things that the Lord can provide them. So they stick with the Lord for as long as the Lord can provide the things that they need. But as soon as the Lord brings difficulties to their lives, challenges, then those are the people that leave. So who sticks around and who perseveres and who doesn't? Those who do not persevere are those who come for the Lord, looking for the things that the Lord can bring to your life. So let me put you this metaphor that I think is useful. Think about your car. Think about your car goes wrong. Some people look for the Lord like if the Lord was a mechanic. So they need the Lord to fix their car so they can keep driving. So they stick with the Lord as long as they need the car to be fixed. But you know what our spiritual life should look like? God is not called to be a mechanic in our life. God is called to be the one who drives our car. And we're supposed to be happy with wherever he leads us. So today is a moment to ask ourselves this question. Who is the Lord for you? Is he a mechanic? Is he the one that you're looking for in the moment of distress? But as soon as he asks from you something that you don't like, you turn to a different place? Or is truly the Lord in your life the pilot? So brothers and sisters, number one, today is a chance to say, the Catholic Church, like Christ, is meant to be faithful to the truth, not to seek popularity. We admire the people who are truthful in spite of the rejection that they face. And that's what Catholic Church and Catholics should look like. Number two, remember that confrontation is good. Because confrontation moves us to a place of determination. Think about this seminarian confronted by his dad and by his mom. Is the Lord calling you to confront someone in your life? Is there someone who needs your confrontation so this person can be moved to a place of determination? And finally, why do so few people persevere? Why do so many people live the Lord? Because many people only want the bread. Jesus tells that to the people in Capernaum. You only want the bread. So today is a chance for us to say to the Lord, Lord, I don't want you to be my mechanic. I want you to be driving my car.